See, here, he said, ladies and gentlemen, here in the heart of Little Dixie, in the center of our USA, we have gathered tonight to honor a great American tradition, for we are about to hear the story and witness the development of the horse America made.
This wonderful horse, so distinctive in gaits and conformation, so thrilling to watch in action, is truly the horse America made. For as you will see, he is as American as Yankee Doodle. Kentucky is hailed as the birthplace of the saddle horse, for it is there that the breed was developed. But Missouri soon came into the picture, for by 1800 the first settlers had arrived here, bringing their saddle horses with them. We in Missouri can claim many big names in the horse world. Stonewall King was owned during his entire stud career by Murray Cason of Stevens, Missouri, and shown by Mr. and Mrs. Claude Drew of Columbia. Stonewall King, who died in 1947, was one of the greatest saddle horse sires of early years. Many of the nation's top saddle horses today still claim Stonewall King in their pedigree. Going farther back into saddle horse history to one of Stonewall King's forebearers, we can claim Rex McDonald, world's champion five-gaited stallion who was foaled in Callaway County in the year 1890. So great was Rex McDonald's influence as a sire, American saddle horses showing today still boast his blood. Rex McDonald was a gorgeous, long-necked black stallion, a real eye-catcher standing still, and a sensation on the move. Indeed, the astounding performances of this beautiful black stallion will be remembered as long as there are horse lovers to carry on the tales. Another great star in the saddle horse firmament was Tom Bass, world-renowned trainer.
The guy who really kind of brought the focus to central Missouri was a man named Tom Bass, who was born on the Bass Plantation, and he was born a slave, owned by the Bass family, and freed, of course, at the end of the Civil War. And he had helped work horses and a lot of mules, actually, for the Bass family.
Shortly after the war between the states, he came to Mexico as a bellboy in the famous hotel, the Ringo House. But it wasn't long before he was a stable boy in the Potts training barn. To quote Tom himself, "My interest in saddle horses was by breeding and environment. I slept in the stable when I was so tiny I got covered up with a straw, and I rode the old mares when I was no bigger than a horsefly." Although he made many of the top show horses of his day, he never became wealthy. Tom was an artist, not a businessman. Tom Bass rode Rex McDonald to many of his important victories. He was also a high school trainer, supplying all the big American circuses with their top high school horses. Belle Beach, said to be the greatest high school mare of all time, was a favorite of Tom Bass. Thousands of people saw her win in all kinds of horse shows from Madison Square Garden on down. When the great trainer died, Will Rogers devoted an entire issue of his daily column to him, and Bass's funeral was one of the largest ever held in Mexico, Missouri. Perhaps it was this real understanding between Tom Bass and his horses that made his career with them so successful.
He became a world-famous horse trainer, and especially he invented the Bass bit, which we now most of the time call a curb bit. But it was a much more humane and kind bit than what was being used a lot of the time. And the use of that style of bit, and of course there have been a billion variations on it by now, but the use of that bit is now worldwide and across many breeds, and it all started here in central Missouri with Tom Bass.
Tom Bass was born a slave. Rex McDonald, a scrawny colt who gave little promise of ever being worth his salt. Yet both became world famous. Ladies and gentlemen, in portraying for you the development of our American saddle horse, we shall depict a story typically American, a story of struggle and devotion, and then rather overwhelming success. Today, as yesterday, Missouri ranks high in the American saddle horse world, and interest in both show and pleasure horses runs high. Now that we all drive cars, the original need for the horse as a means of transportation no longer exists. But both in the show ring and on the bridle path, the American saddlebred shows his true worth. Here are some excellent examples of the modern American saddle horse shown here in hand, as model horses are always shown. If he is an excellent example of the breed, the saddle horse has a short back and a long underline, which produces the long, sloping shoulders. He has a strong loin, a long, level croup, and a high-set tail. His legs are trim with wide, flat bone and hoofs set squarely under the four corners of his body. Our ideal horse has a good spring of rib. His body is round and smooth over the hip bones. He has smooth, though muscular hindquarters, since these are the horse's propellers. The American saddlebred has the stylish and durable front required of the hard-working show horse, with lots of horse in front of the saddle. Our ideal horse mounts well from the withers, up the long arched neck to the tips of his sharp ears. He has a trim throat latch, a chiseled head with big, prominent, expressive eyes, and slim, stylish, active ears.
He was high as a kite, had tremendous animation, oh my God. But he was very kind. That's supposed to be typical of the saddle, but it is of certain strains.
I love how, especially the better ones, it's like, I swear they act like they want to show themselves off. But I love that there are also saddlebreds out there who have a very sweet and kind and gentle temperament.
Although the American saddle horse is also shown as a three-gated horse, a fine harness horse, an equitation horse, a show and country pleasure horse, and as a parade horse, he is known the world over as the five-gated horse. No other breed of horse on our fair planet can do 5 gaits with the action, speed, precision, and animation of the truly fine American saddlebred.
The way I usually describe it to new people who say, okay, what the world is a saddlebred and what is the difference, is that a quarter horse, for example, is very horizontal. Head comes straight out of their shoulders, and when they move their legs forward, but there's not a lot of up and down. A saddlebred is very vertical. Neck, on a really good one, comes straight up out of the shoulders rather than forward. And when they pick their legs up, there's just as much upward motion as there is forward motion.
But you know, quarter horse, jumping horse, they worry about them being sound. That's the number one thing they worry about. A saddlebred or a show horse, you got to worry about their timing, their animation, and still keep the sound. And all three of those combined get kind of complicated, because sometimes the three of them contradict each other. And you have to take a little bit from this one, take it to this one, And they take a little bit from that one and bring it back to this one because they got sore on you. But you have to keep in mind the therapeutic side, their animation, and their timing and balance. You know, side to side, front to back, otherwise they can't do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you view the beautiful horses, and as you watch the five-gated horse now before you, executing the 5 gates so perfectly, do you not wonder just how such a horse came to be? Walk, please. These horses have the elastic gait of the American saddle horse, which is so pleasant to the rider and so beautiful to watch. Trot, please. A square trot is a diagonal 2-beat leaped gait, not a stepped gait as is the walk. At one point in the trot, a horse is actually flying, for all 4 feet are off the ground at once. The trot of the 5-gated American saddle horse is extremely high-actioned and as speedy as possible, without sacrificing form. You will note that the necks of these horses are well flexed and that they carry their heads high, with a chin tucked in. Although, as you will see, the saddle horse is bred to trot with both speed and action. A trainer must spend many patient hours training a horse to go the way these do.
I like that. I like for every gait to be as perfect as possible. That's what I loved in training. I like the finishing. Starting a rack too, but finishing them. So they were really right, you know.
Let's go slow gate. Slow gate, please. And slow gate.
The slow gait is a high, flashy gait. Some years ago, it was preferably a stepping pace. In this gait, the feet on each side move forward together, but the hind foot is placed on the ground shortly before the front one. Notice how skillfully the rider restrains the horse with the reins while urging her forward with the legs and the voice, causing her to go very high or climb in front. Isn't that a beautiful gait?
Well, your shoes, they add length and they add animation as long as it's controlled. You have to work closely with a trainer who's working the horse to see what we can put on them, how much we can get, and still keep the horse's best interests and soundness at stake.
Today, the slow gait is actually a dammed-up sustained rack performed faster than formerly, with extreme action in front and good use of the hocks, the hind legs. Some horses are able to hesitate on their hocks, thereby emphasizing the extreme action in front.
Well, he had a tremendous slow gait. This doesn't show you standing back there. He's just learning the rack here. But Bourbon was tremendous. He'd come up like this and hold it. And people would say, look at that, look at that. And he did too. Come way up above and hold it for a second. Oh, God.
The slow gait and the rack go back to being 4-beat gaits, only they're a lot faster than the walk. And the slow gate's kind of the middle speed, and then the rack should be really fast. And the rhythm for a good rack is going to sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really fast, and you just watch the legs, and you're like, whoa, how did they do that?
The rack is the gait of the American saddle horse. Notice that each of the 4 feet strikes the ground at a different time, and that the intervals between beats are equal. How we love to hear that beautiful, even rhythm of the racking horse. The rider just sits tight and enjoys the ride, but it's lots of work for the horse. Let us remember that the 5-gated horse is a product of America, one of which we may all be justly proud. First, out of the need of our nation for a strong, dependable, easy-gaited saddle horse, and later, out of the desire of that nation to create something beautiful, the American saddle horse was developed. This is the horse America made, a creation that has rightly been called the peacock of the horse world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
And the saddle horse is a work of art. Of course, the others are too in their way, but the saddle horse absolutely is work of art.